The alarm buzzed at 4 in the morning, just like it did every day. Zara opened her eyes in the small, dark room that she called home. It was not really a room at all. It was a storage space behind the water pipes on level 7 of Kepler Station. The space was so small that she could touch both walls if she stretched her arms out wide. She sat up slowly. Her back hurt from sleeping on the hard metal floor. There was no bed, no chair, nothing soft at all. Just her and the cold metal walls that surrounded her like a cage. Zara was a Velhari. Her people were tall with green scales that covered their skin-like armor. Most Velhari had beautiful patterns on their scales that showed their family status. But Zara's scales were different. She had dark marks that curved across her face and arms like ugly scars. These marks told everyone who saw her that she was nothing. She was one of the forgotten ones. She stood up and put on her work clothes. They were old and torn in many places. The fabric was rough against her scales, but it was all she had. She picked up her work tools and opened the small door that led out into the hallway. The hallway was empty. It was always empty at this time of day. Most people on the station were still sleeping in their warm beds. But not Zara. She had to start work before anyone else woke up. She walked down the long corridors toward the waste processing center. Her feet made soft sounds on the metal floor. The lights were dim, and everything looked gray and sad in the early morning. As she walked, she passed windows that looked out into space. She could see stars and distant planets, all beautiful and far away. Sometimes she wondered what it would be like to visit those places, but she knew she would never leave this station. People like her did not get to travel to beautiful places. The waste processing center was in the lowest part of the station. It was where all the garbage and dirty water came to be cleaned or thrown away. The smell was terrible, and the noise was loud. Big machines worked all day and night, grinding and crushing and burning things that nobody wanted anymore. Zara's job was to fix the machines when they broke. She had to crawl into small spaces and work with dangerous chemicals. If she made a mistake, she could get hurt or even die. But nobody cared about that. If something happened to her, they would just find another forgotten one to take her place. She started her work just as the first shift of other workers arrived. They were all different kinds of aliens from many different planets. There were the blue-skinned Altarians with their 4 arms. There were the tall, thin Cedians who looked like walking trees. There were even a few other Velhari, but they were from higher castes. When the other Velhari saw Zara, they turned away. They acted like she was not there at all. If she walked too close to them, they would move away quickly as if touching her would make them sick. They called her names in their language, words that meant dirty and worthless and mistake. The aliens from other planets had learned to treat her the same way. They saw how her own people acted toward her, and they decided she must be something bad. So they ignored her too. Around noon, Zara was carrying a heavy container of waste chemicals when she accidentally bumped into a Velhari supervisor named Orcs. The container was heavy, and she had been working for 8 hours without a break. Her hands were tired, and she did not see him coming around the corner. "Watch where you are going, you stupid creature," Orcs shouted. His scales were bright green with gold patterns that showed he was from a high caste. He was much bigger than Zara, and his voice was deep and angry. "I am sorry," Zara said quietly. She bent down to pick up the container that had fallen. "Sorry is not enough." Orcs raised his foot and kicked her hard in the side. She fell down next to the spilled chemicals. "You contaminated me with your touch. Now I will have to go through cleaning rituals because of you." Other workers stopped to watch, but nobody helped her. They just stared as Orcs kicked her again. "Please," Zara whispered. She tried to protect herself with her arms. "I did not mean to." "You should not even be on this station," Orcs shouted. "Your kind should be sent away to die on some empty planet where you cannot bother real people." Just then, a voice spoke up from behind the crowd. "Hey, that's enough." Everyone turned to look. A human male was walking toward them. He was not very tall, but he looked strong. His skin was brown and his hair was black. He wore the uniform of a ship captain. The human walked right up to Orcs and stood between him and Zara. "Back off," he said. His voice was calm but firm. Quarks was surprised. Nobody ever interfered when he was punishing a forgotten one. This does not concern you, human. This creature bumped into me. She must be taught her place. Her place is not on the ground getting kicked by you, the human said. He held out his hand to help Zara stand up. Zara looked at the offered hand with fear and confusion. Nobody had ever offered to help her before. She was afraid it was some kind of trick. You do not understand our ways, Quark said to the human. She is untouchable. If you help her, you will be contaminated too. The human looked at Quarks with disgust. The only contamination I see here is your behavior. He kept his hand extended toward Zara. It's okay, he said gently. I'm Jake Martinez, let me help you up. Slowly, carefully, Zara reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm and soft, not cold like the metal walls of her room. He helped her stand, and for the first time in her life, someone looked at her like she was a real person. Quarks made an angry sound. You will regret this, human. You do not know what you are doing. Jake looked at him calmly. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm helping someone who needs help. Where I come from, that's what decent people do. The crowd began to break up. The other workers went back to their jobs, talking quietly among themselves. Some looked angry, others looked confused. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. Quarks walked away, but before he left, he looked back at Zara with hatred in his eyes. This is not over, forgotten one. You will pay for bringing shame to our people. When everyone else was gone, Jake turned to Zara. Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention? Zara shook her head quickly. She was afraid to speak. She was afraid that if she said anything, this strange kindness would disappear like a dream. What's your name? Jake asked. Zara, she whispered. Well, Zara, nobody deserves to be treated like that, nobody. He looked around at the dirty, dangerous workplace. How long have you been working here? All my life, she said. Jake's face became sad and angry at the same time. All your life? How old are you? 23 standard years. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Would you like to get some real food? I have a ship docked here and my crew makes the best soup in the galaxy. Zara's eyes went wide with fear. No, I cannot. If they see me with you, they will punish me worse than before. And you will be in trouble too. Let me worry about that, Jake said. When do you finish work? I work until midnight. Then, I'll come back at midnight. Meet me at docking bay 12 if you want that soup. Before Zara could say anything else, Jake walked away. She watched him go, feeling something she had never felt before. For the first time in her life, someone had treated her like she mattered. Someone had seen her as more than just a mistake. That should not exist. But as she went back to work, she also felt afraid. Quarks would not forget what happened today, and if she met this human Jake again, things would only get worse for her. Still, as she worked through the long afternoon, she could not stop thinking about the way Jake had looked at her. Like she was a real person, like she had value. Maybe, just maybe, she would go to docking bay 12 at midnight. The next 3 days were the hardest of Zara's life. Word had spread through the entire Velhari community on the station about her meeting with the humans. Everywhere she went, her own people looked at her with disgust and anger. On the second day, a group of young Velhari males cornered her in a maintenance tunnel. Their leader was Quarks's nephew, a cruel young man named Drac. His scales were bright green with gold edges, showing he came from a high family. You have brought shame to all Velhari, Drac said, blocking her path. Eating with humans like you are their equal, letting them touch you with their dirty hands. I did nothing wrong, Zara said quietly. She tried to walk around them, but they moved to stop her. Nothing wrong? Another young male laughed. You contaminated yourself and made our entire race look weak. The other aliens are talking about it. They think we cannot control our own low castes. Please let me pass, Zara said. I have work to do. Drac pushed her hard against the wall. You will stay away from those humans. If we see you near them again, there will be serious consequences. What kind of consequences? Zara asked. though she was afraid to hear the answer. "The kind that will teach you to remember your place," Drax said with a mean smile. They left her alone in the tunnel, but their message was clear. Zara spent the rest of that day thinking about Jake and his crew. She wanted to see them again, to feel that warmth and kindness one more time, but she was too scared. On the third day, everything changed. Zara was working late in the deepest part of the waste processing center. It was almost midnight, and she was alone. The machines were loud and the smell was terrible as always. She was trying to fix a broken chemical filter when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw 5 Velhari males walking toward her. Drac was leading them, and they all looked very angry. "We warned you to stay away from the humans," Drac said. "But we heard you were seen near their docking bay again yesterday." "I was not," Zara said, backing away from them. "I was working all day." "You lie," said another male. "A security guard saw you walking in that direction during your break." "I got lost," Zara said desperately. "I was trying to find a bathroom and took a wrong turn." "Enough lies," Drac shouted. He grabbed her by the arm and threw her to the ground. "You have disgraced our people for the last time." The 5 males surrounded her. Zara curled up on the floor and tried to protect herself as they began to kick and hit her. Pain shot through her body as their heavy boots connected with her ribs and back. "This is what happens to forgotten ones who try to rise above their station," Drac said between kicks. "You are nothing. You have always been nothing, and after tonight, you will remember that." They beat her for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. When they were finished, Zara could barely move. Blood dripped from cuts on her face and arms. Her ribs felt broken, and her breathing was shallow and painful. "If you survive this," Drac said, looking down at her broken body, "remember that next time will be worse. Stay away from the humans, or we will make sure you disappear forever." The 5 males walked away, leaving her alone in the dark tunnel. Zara tried to stand up, but the pain was too much. She crawled to a corner and curled up, hoping the pain would stop soon. Hours passed. The night shift workers came and went, but nobody found her in the deep maintenance tunnel. She drifted in and out of consciousness, dreaming of warm soup and kind voices. She was barely aware when strong hands lifted her up. She heard a familiar voice saying her name, but everything felt like a dream. "Zara. What happened to you? Who did this?" She opened her eyes and saw Jake's worried face looking down at her. Behind him stood Lisa and Ben, both looking shocked and angry. "We have to get her to the ship," Ben said urgently. "She needs medical attention right away." "Can you move her?" Jake asked, carefully. Her ribs might be broken and she could have internal injuries. They lifted her gently and carried her through the tunnels toward the docking bay. Zara wanted to tell them to leave her alone, that helping her would only cause them trouble. But she was too weak to speak. Back on the New Dawn, Ben worked quickly to treat her injuries. He cleaned her cuts, bandaged her wounds, and gave her medicine for the pain. Lisa sat nearby, holding Zara's hand and speaking in a soft, comforting voice. "You're safe now," Lisa said. "Nobody is going to hurt you anymore." Jake paced back and forth in the medical bay, his face dark with anger. "Who did this to you, Zara? Tell me their names." "It does not matter," Zara whispered through swollen lips. "They were right. I should not have talked to you. I brought this on myself." "No," Jake said firmly. "Nobody deserves this, no matter what they did. This is not your fault." "My people do not want me to associate with outsiders," Zara explained weakly. "Especially not humans. They say it makes us look weak." "Their weakness is in how they treat you," Ben said angrily. "Any society that beats its own people for showing kindness to others is the weak one." Over the next day, Zara slowly recovered under Ben's care. The humans took turns sitting with her, bringing her food and water, and talking to her about life. On their ship, for the first time since she was a child, she felt truly safe. "We leave tomorrow," Jake said on her second day in the medical bay. "Our repairs are finished and we have a cargo delivery to make." Zara felt her heart sink. Soon she would be alone again, back in her small room. back to the hatred and cruelty of her daily life. "I want you to come with us," Jake said suddenly. Zara stared at him in shock. "What? Come with us, join our crew. You do not have to stay here and live like this." "I cannot," Zara said quickly. "I have no skills that would be useful on a ship. I am just a waste processor, and if I leave, they will hunt me down." "You have more skills than you know," Lisa said. "I have been watching you work on our ship's systems while you recover. You understand machines better than most trained engineers I know. And as for them hunting you down," Jake added, "they will have to go through us first. We protect our crew members." "Your crew?" Zara asked in disbelief. "If you want to be," Jake said with a smile. "We could use someone with your technical skills, and more importantly, you deserve a chance at a real life." Zara looked around at the three humans who had shown her more kindness in a few days than she had received in her entire life. They were offering her something she had never dared to dream of: a home, a family, a chance to be treated like a person who mattered. "What if I am not good enough?" she asked quietly. "You are already good enough," Ben said. "You just need someone to give you a chance to prove it." Tears ran down Zara's face as she realized what they were offering her. Not just a job, but a new life. A life where she would not have to hide in storage rooms or eat scraps or live in fear. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I want to come with you." Jake smiled widely. "Then welcome to the crew of the New Dawn, Zara. Your new life starts now." For the first time in 23 years, Zara smiled a real smile. She was no longer one of the forgotten ones. She was part of something bigger. She belonged somewhere. Outside the ship, she could hear angry Velhari voices searching for her, but she was not afraid anymore. She had found her family, and they would not let anyone hurt her again. The New Dawn would leave Kepler Station tomorrow, and Zara would leave her old life behind forever. She was finally free. The rest of the day felt like forever. Zara tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept going back to the human named Jake. She had never met anyone like him before. The way he stood up to Quarks without fear, the way he looked at her like she was worth something. Every few hours, other Velhari workers would walk past her and whisper mean things. Word had spread quickly about what happened. They were angry that a human had interfered with their punishment of a forgotten one. They were even more angry that Zara had accepted his help. "You brought shame to all Velhari today," said a female worker named Vex. Her scales were silver with blue patterns that marked her as middle caste. "You should have refused the human's help. Now he thinks we are weak." Zara said nothing. She had learned long ago that talking back only made things worse. She kept working on the broken machine in front of her, pretending not to hear the cruel words. But inside, she felt different. For the first time in her life, someone had defended her. Someone had said she did not deserve to be kicked and hurt. The feeling was strange and scary, but also warm. As the hours passed, she began to think about Jake's invitation. Docking Bay, 12 at midnight, real food and soup. She had never eaten with anyone before. She always ate alone in her small room, with scraps of food that others had thrown away. But she was also afraid. If other Velhari saw her with Jake again, they would hurt her badly. Maybe they would even kill her. And Jake might get in trouble too. She did not want that to happen to the first person who had ever been kind to her. The clock on the wall moved, slowly. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 11:30. At 11:45, Zara finished her last task and put away her tools. Her supervisor, a mean Altarian with 4 arms, did not even look at her when she left. To him, she was just another piece of equipment that did its job and then disappeared. She walked through the empty hallways toward Docking Bay 12. Her heart was beating fast. She had never been to the docking bays before. Those areas were for important people who owned ships and traveled to different planets, not for people like her. The docking bay was much nicer than the waste processing levels. The floors were clean and the lights were bright. She could see several ships through the big windows. They looked beautiful and powerful, like metal birds, that could fly between the stars. She found docking bay 12 and stopped outside the door. Through the window, she could see a medium-sized ship with the name New Dawn painted on its side. There were humans moving around inside the bay, doing maintenance work on their ship. She stood there for several minutes, afraid to go inside. What if this was a mistake? What if Jake had changed his mind? What if he was like everyone else and had decided she was not worth his time? Just as she was about to turn around and leave, the bay door opened. Jake stepped out and saw her standing. "There, Zara," he said with a smile. "I was hoping you would come. I was starting to worry that you might not show up." "I almost did not," she said quietly. "But you did. That took courage." He gestured toward the ship. "Come on, let me introduce you to my crew." Zara followed him into the docking bay. She had never been so close to a real spaceship before. It was much bigger than she had expected, with smooth metal sides and glowing windows. "This is the New Dawn," Jake said proudly. "She's been my home for 8 years now. Lisa, Ben, come meet our guest." 2 other humans came down the ship's ramp. One was a woman with red hair and grease stains on her clothes. The other was a man with kind eyes and medical symbols on his uniform. "This is Lisa Harper, our chief engineer," Jake said. "And this is Ben Cole, our medic. Everyone, this is Zara." Lisa smiled and held out her hand. "Nice to meet you, Zara. Jake told us what happened today. I'm sorry you had to go through that." Zara stared at the offered hand. Another human wanted to shake hands with her. Slowly, she reached out and touched Lisa's hand. It was warm and calloused from working with tools. "You are not afraid to touch me?" Zara asked. Ben looked confused. "Why would we be afraid? You seem like a perfectly nice person to me." "My people say I am contaminated. They say anyone who touches me will become dirty too." The 3 humans looked at each other with anger and sadness. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard," Lisa said. "You're not contaminated. You're just a person trying to live her life." Jake led them up the ramp and into the ship. Zara's eyes went wide as she looked around. Everything was clean and bright. There were comfortable chairs and tables. The walls had pictures of different planets and stars. It felt warm and safe, like a real home. "Come on," Jake said. "Let's get you that soup I promised." They went to a room that Jake called the galley. It had a big table and a kitchen area where food was prepared. The smell was amazing. Zara had never smelled anything so good in her entire life. Ben brought her a bowl of hot soup and a piece of fresh bread. "Here you go. This should help you feel better." Zara looked at the food with wonder. The soup was thick and full of vegetables and meat. The bread was soft and warm. She had never seen such good food before. "Go ahead," Lisa said. "Eat up. You look like you could use a good meal." Zara took a small sip of the soup. It was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. Warm and rich and full of flavors she did not even know existed. She ate slowly, trying to make it last as long as possible. "So tell us about yourself," Jake said. "How long have you lived on the station?" "All my life," Zara said between bites. "I was born here. My mother died when I was very young. Nobody wanted to take care of a forgotten one baby, so I grew up in the work areas." "Forgotten one?" Ben asked. Zara pointed to the dark marks on her scales. "These marks mean I am from the lowest caste. In Velhari society, people like me are supposed to do the dirty work and stay away from everyone else. We are not supposed to talk to higher castes or eat good food or have nice things." "That's horrible," Lisa said. "How can they treat their own people that way?" "It has always been this way," Zara said. "My people believe that some are born to be servants and others are born to be served. The marks on our scales show which group we belong to." Jake leaned forward. "But you're smart. I can tell. You speak. Well, and Jake told me you know how to fix complex machines." "I learned by watching and practicing," Zara said. "Nobody taught me. I had to figure everything out by myself." "That makes you even more impressive," Ben said. "Most people need teachers and schools to learn difficult skills." Zara looked around the table at the 3 humans. They were all looking at her with respect and interest. Not disgust, Not fear, not hatred, just kindness. Why are you being so nice to me? She asked. You do not even know me. Because everyone deserves to be treated with basic decency, Jake said. Where we come from, we learned a long time ago that judging people by things they cannot control is wrong. It does not matter what color your skin is, or what marks you were born with, or what family you come from. What matters is who you are, as a person. But I am nothing, Zara said. I have no family, no money, no important job. I live in a storage room and eat garbage. You are not nothing, Lisa said firmly. You are a skilled worker who has survived terrible treatment for years. You are brave enough to accept kindness from strangers. You are smart enough to learn complex skills without help. That makes you pretty amazing in my book. Zara felt tears starting to form in her eyes. Nobody had ever said such things to her before. She did not know how to respond. I should go, she said quietly. If people see me here, they will cause trouble for you. Let them try, Jake said. We can take care of ourselves, but I understand if you're worried about your own safety. As Zara stood to leave, Jake caught her arm gently. Zara, I want you to know something. If you ever need help, if you ever want to talk, you can find us here. We'll be on the station for another week doing repairs. Thank you, Zara whispered, for the food, for treating me like a person. I will never forget this. She walked back to her small room with a full stomach and a warm feeling in her heart. For the first time in her life, she had friends, people who cared about what happened to her. But as she lay down on her hard floor, she also felt scared. Change was coming, and change was always dangerous for people like her. Outside her room, she could hear other Velhari talking in angry voices. They knew where she had been, and they were not happy about it. 3 months had passed since the new Dawn left Kepler Station with Zara aboard. At first, she could hardly believe it was real. Every morning she woke up in a real bed with clean sheets and soft pillows. She had her own small room with a door that locked from the inside. Nobody could hurt her here. The first few weeks were difficult. Zara was so used to being afraid that she jumped at every sound. She ate her meals quickly, expecting someone to take her food away. She worked harder than anyone asked her to, afraid that if she was not useful enough, they would leave her behind at the next station. Jake noticed her fear and spoke to her gently one day while she was cleaning the engine room for the 3rd time. Zara, you do not have to work so hard, he said. You are part of the crew now. This is your home. I want to be useful, she replied, not looking up from her work. I do not want you to regret bringing me. We could never regret that, Jake said. But you're more than just a worker here. You are our friend. You can relax. You can enjoy yourself. You are safe. Slowly, very slowly, Zara began to believe him. She started eating meals with the crew instead of alone in her room. She began to ask questions about the places they visited and the work they did. She even started to laugh at Ben's terrible jokes. But it was Lisa who helped her discover something amazing about herself. The ship's main engine had been making strange noises for days. Lisa had checked everything she could think of, but she could not find the problem. The engine was old and complex with many parts that worked together in complicated ways. I might have to take the whole thing apart, Lisa said one day, looking frustrated. That will take weeks and we have cargo to deliver. Zara had been watching Lisa work. She had learned a lot about the engine over the past months, asking questions and helping with small repairs. Something about the noise bothered her. It reminded her of a sound she had heard before, back on Kepler Station. Can I look at something? Zara asked quietly. Of course, Lisa said. What do you think it might be? Zara crawled under the engine housing and listened carefully to the sounds. She closed her eyes and let her hands feel along the pipes and wires. There was a pattern to the noise, like a heartbeat that was slightly off rhythm. Here, she said, pointing to a small junction where 3 pipes met. I think the problem is here. Lisa looked where Zara was pointing. It was a part she had not checked because it rarely caused problems. But when she opened it up, she found exactly what Zara had suspected. A small valve was stuck, causing pressure to build up in the wrong places. "How did you know that?" Lisa asked in amazement. "The sound," Zara said simply. "I heard the same sound on the station when the old recycling machines had pressure problems. The rhythm was the same." Lisa stared at her. "Zara, do you realize what you just did? You diagnosed a complex engine problem that I could not figure out, and you did it by listening to the sound." "It was just a guess," Zara said, embarrassed by the attention. "It was not a guess, it was skill, real engineering skill." Word of what happened spread quickly through the small crew. Jake and Ben came to see what all the excitement was about. "She saved us weeks of work," Lisa told them. "And probably saved us from being stranded if the engine had failed completely." From that day forward, Lisa began teaching Zara everything she knew about ship systems. Zara learned faster than anyone Lisa had ever taught. She understood not just how things worked, but why they worked that way. She could see connections between different systems that most people missed. "You have a gift," Lisa told her one day as they worked together replacing worn power cables. "You think about machines the way other people think about living things, like you can feel what they need." "I had to learn," Zara said. "On the station, if the machines broke down, people got angry. I learned to listen to them to understand what they were telling me." "That is exactly what good engineers do," Lisa said. "They listen to their machines." As the months passed, Zara became more confident. She started offering suggestions during crew meetings. She helped Jake plan more efficient routes between star systems. She taught Ben how to fix the medical equipment when it acted up. The crew began to rely on her knowledge and skills. When they stopped at trading stations, other ship captains would ask Jake about his miracle engineer, who could fix things that nobody else understood. But the biggest change was in Zara herself. She stood up straighter now. She looked people in the eye when she spoke. She smiled and laughed easily. The scared, broken creature who had been beaten in a maintenance tunnel was gone. In her place was a confident, skilled woman who knew her own worth. One day they were docked at a busy trade station called Port Freedom. Jake and Ben had gone to arrange cargo contracts while Lisa and Zara worked on upgrading the ship's navigation. System. A Velhari merchant ship called the Silver Wind was docked nearby. Zara saw several Velhari walking around the port, and her old fears came back for a moment. She had not seen any of her people since leaving Kepler Station. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, noticing her tension. "I am fine," Zara said. "It is just strange, seeing other Velhari after so long." One of the Velhari merchants walked past their docking bay and noticed Zara working on the complex navigation equipment. He stopped and stared in surprise. "Excuse me," he called out. "Are you Velhari?" Zara looked up from her work. The merchant had silver and blue scale patterns that marked him as middle caste. His expression was curious rather than hostile. "Yes," she said simply. "I am Captain Nex of the Silver Wind. I could not help but notice your skill with that equipment. Are you the ship's engineer?" "One of them," Zara said, standing up to face him properly. Captain Nex looked confused. "But your markings, you are from the servant caste. How do you have such advanced technical knowledge?" Lisa stepped forward protectively. "She has advanced knowledge because she is brilliant and hard-working. What her markings are has nothing to do with it." "I apologize," Captain Nex said quickly. "I meant no offense, it is just unusual. On our worlds, the servant castes do not typically work with advanced technology." "Maybe that is your loss," Zara said quietly but firmly. "Maybe. There are others like me who could contribute more if given the chance." Captain Nex stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. You are obviously very skilled. Your captain is fortunate to have you." After he left, Lisa put her hand on Zara's shoulder. "I am proud of you," she said. "A few months ago you would have hidden from him. Today you stood up for yourself and maybe helped him think differently about his own people." That night, as the crew shared dinner together, Jake raised his cup in a toast. "To Zara," he said, "the best engineer in the fleet and a valued member of our family. To finding where you belong, Ben added. To proving that worth comes from within, not from what others think of you, Lisa said. Zara felt tears of happiness in her eyes. She had found more than just a new life. She had found herself. She was no longer defined by the marks on her scales or the circumstances of her birth. She was defined by her skills, her courage, and her kind heart. Thank you, she said to her friends, for seeing who I could be before I saw it myself. Outside the ship, the stars shone brightly through the port windows. Each star represented countless worlds and possibilities, and for the first time in her life, Zara felt like all of those possibilities were open to her. She had found her worth, and nobody could ever take that away from her again. 6 months after leaving Kepler Station, the New Dawn returned. Jake needed to pick up a special cargo shipment that was only available there. When Zara heard they were going back, she felt nervous but not afraid. She was not the same person who had left this place. As soon as they docked, word spread quickly through the station. The human ship had returned, and they had brought the runaway Forgotten One with them. Within hours, angry Velhari were gathering near the docking bay. Jake, Lisa, Ben, and Zara were unloading equipment when Drac and a group of Velhari males approached them. Drac looked older and meaner than before. His eyes filled with hatred when he saw Zara. So the contaminated one returns, Drac said loudly. Did the humans get tired of their pet and bring her back to throw away? Zara straightened her shoulders and looked directly at him. She was wearing a clean blue uniform that marked her as a ship's engineer. Her scales were healthy and bright from good food and care. She looked nothing like the broken creature they had beaten months ago. Hello, Drac, she said calmly. I see you have not changed. You will show respect, Drac shouted. You are still a Forgotten One, no matter what clothes you wear or what lies the humans have told you. Actually, Zara said with a small smile, I am Chief Systems Specialist Zara of the New Dawn, and I do not have to show you anything. The Velhari males looked shocked. A Forgotten One speaking with confidence and pride was something they had never seen before. You think you are better than us now? Another male asked angrily. You think playing with human machines makes you important? I think I am exactly what I always was, Zara replied, a person with value and dignity. The only difference is that now I know it. More aliens began to gather around them. Word was spreading that something interesting was happening in the docking bay. Other species stopped their work to watch the confrontation. A tall Velhari official named Counselor Vex pushed through the crowd. His scales were gold and red, marking him as one of the highest-ranking Velhari on the station. His face was twisted with anger. Captain Martinez, he said to Jake, you will return our property immediately. This creature belongs to the Velhari people, and you have stolen her. Property? Jake asked, his voice dangerous and low. Did you just call a living, breathing person your property? She is a Forgotten One, Counselor Vex said. By our laws, she has no rights. She exists only to serve her betters. Your laws do not apply to my ship or my crew, Jake said firmly. And Zara is my crew. If you do not return her, I will ban all human ships from this station, Counselor Vex threatened. You cannot afford to lose access to our trade routes. The crowd grew larger as more people heard about the argument. Aliens from dozens of different species watched to see what would happen. Many had heard stories about human stubbornness, but they had never seen it in action. Go ahead and try, Jake said. But I think you will find that other human captains feel the same way I do about slavery and treating people like property. As if summoned by his words, 3 more human ships docked at the station. Their captains walked over to see what was happening. When they learned about the situation, they stood beside Jake. We stand with Captain Martinez, said Captain Amy, Rodriguez of the Star Runner. No human ship will trade with a station that practices slavery. And word will spread to other human ports, added Captain Tony Clark of the Freedom's Call. Soon you will have no human traders at all. Counselor. Vex looked around nervously. Human traders brought a lot of money to the station. Losing all of them would be a disaster for business. This is ridiculous, he said. She is just one worthless creature. Why do you care so much about her? Because that is who we are, Jake said simply. We do not abandon our friends. We do not accept that some people are worth less than others. And we do not bow to bullies. From the crowd, a voice called out, "Let her speak for herself." It was Captain Nex, the Velhari merchant who had met Zara at Port Freedom. If she chooses to stay with the humans, what right do we have to force her back? Other voices joined in. Some aliens in the crowd had begun to question what they were seeing. A young woman who seemed intelligent and confident, standing up for herself against those who wanted to treat her like an animal. Counselor Vex turned red with anger. She has no right to choose. She is marked as a servant. I was marked as a servant, Zara said, stepping forward. Her voice carried clearly across the crowd. But marks on skin do not determine what is inside a person's heart and mind. These humans saw past my marks to who I really am. They gave me a chance to learn and grow and become who I was meant to be. She looked around at the crowd of different alien species. How many of you have people in your own societies who are treated badly because of things they cannot control? How many bright minds are wasted because someone decided they were not worth teaching? How many good hearts are broken because someone decided they were not worth loving? The crowd was silent now, listening to her words. I am not asking you to change your entire society overnight, Zara continued. I am just asking you to think. Maybe the next time you see someone being treated badly, you will remember this moment. Maybe you will choose kindness instead of cruelty. An old Altarian in the crowd spoke up. The young one speaks wisdom. Perhaps we should listen. Others nodded in agreement. Even some of the Velhari in the crowd looked thoughtful rather than angry. Counselor Vex realized he was losing support. This is not over, he said to Jake. You may have won today, but there will be consequences. There already are consequences, Jake said. Zara is one of the best engineers I have ever worked with. While you wasted her talents, she was learning. Skills that now benefit my crew and my business. Your loss is our gain. As the crowd began to break up, several young aliens approached Zara. They asked her questions about her work, her life on the ship, and how she had learned so much. She answered them patiently, encouraging them to pursue their own dreams regardless of what others said about their limits. Back on the New Dawn that evening, the crew celebrated with a special dinner. They had faced down bullies and stood up for what was right. But more importantly, they had shown the galaxy what humans believed in. I am proud of how you handled yourself today, Jake told Zara. You spoke with courage and wisdom. You made people think. I learned from good teachers, Zara replied, looking around at her friends. You taught me that everyone deserves respect and kindness. Today I got to teach that lesson to others. Lisa raised her cup. To family, she said. Not the family you are born into, but the family you choose. To second chances, Ben added. To proving that worth comes from character, not circumstances, Jake said. Zara smiled as she looked around the table at the people who had saved her life in every way that mattered. She had started as someone who was treated like nothing. Now, she was someone who helped others see their own value. The next morning, as the New Dawn prepared to leave the station, Zara received a message. It was from a young Velhari female who had been in the crowd yesterday. She was asking for advice on how to escape the restrictions of her low caste and pursue her dream of becoming a doctor. Zara smiled as she typed her reply. The cycle was beginning, again. Someone who had been lifted up was now reaching down to help lift up someone else. The New Dawn undocked from Kepler Station and headed for the stars. In the cargo hold were supplies for their next delivery. In the crew quarters was a family bound together by choice rather than blood. And in Zara's heart was the knowledge that she had found her true purpose. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a teacher, a friend, and proof that everyone deserves a chance to become who they are meant to be. The stars ahead looked bright with possibility.